Hey, welcome back, everybody. Great to see you. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful day out there, and we've got a good bit to discuss in today's video as we're approaching the Christmas time frame. I am still watching the potential for some holiday snow, or at least right before Christmas snow, going into this weekend. And I'll be honest, I think a lot of folks don't realize how close we are to a pretty good little snow system into portions of New England. So we're going to break it down for you. I do think we've seen some trends in the right direction overnight. And this is going to be one of those storms that it might really come down to the last couple of days of forecasting it before we really know if somebody's going to have the potential for a good little snow system. Now, outside of that, there's a couple of other areas that we're watching as we do approach the holiday, including really a big block of cold air that is likely to work into the eastern half of the country, and you'll definitely feel that here in the coming days. And then we'll talk about that post-Christmas time frame to end out the video. Alrighty, folks, if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do so. Like the video, comment, let me know where you're watching from, and consider sharing it with somebody that you think might find it useful. All right, let's go ahead and dive on into things here, starting with satellite loop. And really the big thing that I want you to take from this, and you might think, well, why is he showing me this? But look up here to the north. You see this area of kind of stagnant blue up into Canada. These are not clouds. Now, some of the little green areas above it that are swirling around are clouds, but that general big block of blue is actually just cold air. It's a pocket of Arctic air, Arctic/polar air, kind of a little bit of both. It's bordering between the two, I would say. But this is going to dive southward into the United States, specifically the eastern United States, as we get into the later half of this week. And that is really going to make it feel quite festive. Whether you see snow or not, it's going to be a cold weekend before Christmas. So if you're doing any last-second shopping, you're definitely going to be bundled up as that moves southward. And as it does so, we are going to get some storm systems to fire up out of it. You can see kind of our Pacific jet here is just producing a ton of energy, bringing it in off of the Pacific, and we've got all of this cloud cover and active weather moving across the country because of it. And should that interact with this Arctic air, we could definitely see some wintry weather. Now, current radar out there will start in the east, pretty potent little storm left over from yesterday here into the northeastern United States, specifically New England, and up into eastern Canada. We're seeing kind of a rain, snow mix depending on where you're at. Mainly rain in the United States, but some snow mixing in up there into Canada for sure. We've got a couple areas or pockets of rain into the southeast. Some pretty potent storms out of this probably as well. With some pretty good rainfall rates, it looks like there in between Atlanta and Chattanooga, and then back down into kind of the Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas border there, seeing some pretty good rainfall to start off your Tuesday. Now back out into the plains, we do have some snow working into portions of the northern plains here from really much of South Dakota into portions of Nebraska, Wyoming, and even into Idaho there, into the higher terrains not far from Idaho Falls and Twin Falls, seeing some snow. And talk about this Pacific jet here. Just look at this absolute train of moisture coming towards the United States. Now, the good news is this is going to fluctuate a little bit up and down. This isn't all going to just move into the country, but we are going to see glancing blows of some rain and some mountain snow into the northern Rockies over the next couple of days. Now, the watches, warnings, and advisory map are relatively quiet, actually, especially in the east here. All of these kind of gray boxes are just dense fog advisories. We've got a couple wind advisories up into the Adirondacks there. But other than that, everyone really east of the Rockies are in a pretty quiet state. Some winter weather advisories into South Dakota for that snow I just showed you. But all of the active weather staying out west right now, and will eventually move east, though. So do not get too locked into the mindset that the active weather is going to be in the west, because by the time we get really starting to, well, really we could argue today, but really starting tomorrow onward, that active weather will be shifting east towards the eastern half of the country, and that's when those winter weather chances will also increase. So let's go ahead and talk about it a little bit. I'm kind of watching three potential snowmakers, we'll say, for the Christmas time frame. And I'm going to start that time frame really now, because we've got, about a week from today is Christmas Eve, if my math serves me correctly. Let me check right now for you. Yeah, a week from today is Christmas Eve. So, this is, I would consider festive snow any time from here on out, because you got the lights up, you're in the Christmas spirit. So sure, we'll count it. Okay, so the piece of energy we're watching in the near term is actually this guy right here. And again, this came in off the Pacific, crossed the northern Rockies, brought snow and a whole bunch of stuff yesterday, is currently bringing that winter weather into portions of Nebraska and the Dakotas, like we saw on radar. This is eventually going to slide east and will likely bring winter weather into the northeast through the coming days. Now, I say it's that piece of energy. It's really kind of two pieces, I should say. This northern stream energy and this still kind of northern stream, but more southern stream, we'll say, piece of energy are going to kind of work into tandem here and likely link up. Now, what's going to happen is the southern piece is going to bring more of kind of the rain threat, if you will, down into portions of the mid-south and even into the southeast. In fact, a small severe weather threat today. We will mention that as well. But this northern piece is likely going to bring the snowfall threat into portions of the interior northeast. And here's the look it's got going into Thursday morning. Everything to the north of kind of this, brighter color, brighter banding here, right into here, that's where we're going to have the highest chance of seeing some snow, as we're likely going to get low pressure developing right into here, and that will throw back enough precipitation into that pocket of cold air to produce some wintry weather. And then as for the south, this is really just going to be producing lift for shower activity, maybe even a couple rumbles of thunder and a couple severe storms not out of the question today and potentially tomorrow as well. And then after that, here's the next storm, storm number 2 out of 3 for the potential of some winter weather. And that's the exciting one, I think. That's the one we've been talking a ton about recently. And I'll be honest, again, I still think we're very close to something that is more than nothing, if that makes sense at all. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get a blizzard out of it. In fact, I don't think we'll get a blizzard out of it, but I do think somebody has the chance of maybe picking up a little bit of snow that they're not quite expecting. And I'll tell you who I think that could be here in just a moment. But before we get there, let's go ahead and break down the first storm system. Now, this is this afternoon and evening, talking about that severe weather potential. We're really going to be right down into this area of Arkansas, portions of western Tennessee, Kentucky, southern Missouri, where we even had a tornado warning yesterday. Could once again see a couple strong storms. Now, to the north of there, you'll notice that little band of snow working through northern Iowa. That's, kind of where we had those winter weather advisories posted. We'll get this later into this evening and really overnight tonight and especially tomorrow morning. This is when the severe weather threat really picks up, is in the overnight hours right into that region I showed you. A nice little skinny area of some convection here along the cold front with our low pressure here. Not a very strong front. This is very positively tilted energy. So don't expect, any severe weather outbreaks or anything like that, but definitely rumbles of thunder, a couple strong wind gusts, maybe some small hail, and can never rule out a brief isolated tornado as well in that circled area. And this is tomorrow morning. Now, to the north of there, we do have snow showers working on through Chicago, portions of Michigan there into the Wisconsin, both start with a W, I guess, into the Wisconsin area, seeing a couple of snow showers, even up into the UP of Michigan. And it's as we get into tomorrow afternoon that this storm begins to really take a form here that would be a little more conducive for some snow to begin. That northern stream energy now diving down at this point, kind of connecting with this more southern piece of energy. And we're beginning to see that precipitation forming in the cold pocket. We could see snow showers in Detroit and even into portions of northern Ohio through your Wednesday afternoon, and then all rain with, again, a small severe weather threat to the south here as this front works on through with that cold air behind it. Now, here we go, Wednesday evening, about the time you're probably going home, or maybe you're already home by 6 o'clock Eastern, and this is when the snow really begins to crank up into the interior northeast. Now, unfortunately, I-95 corridor, once more, this storm is going to be all rain for really everyone along the I-95 corridor. No one's going to luck out from this one, but interior northeast, especially per usual, those higher terrains, are going to get a pretty good little burst of snow out of this Wednesday evening and overnight Wednesday as those showers continue working on through the southeast. And here we go. This is about 1 a.m. Thursday as far out as the model goes. Snow still continuing into Maine and interior portions of New England. And some lake effect beginning to ramp up on the backside of the storm through Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, western Pennsylvania, western New York, kind of the usual suspect places getting some lake effect overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning. Now, how much snow are we talking? Well, I think it's going to depend on what model you trust, first of all, but I do think the interior Northeast, first of all, let's go ahead and start with that, are going to be the winners out of this. Boston, Concord, maybe Concord, but Boston, Hartford, down to New York City, Philly, DC, not going to be your storm, but you get further north up towards Utica, Binghamton, Erie, Buffalo, and then into really much of New Hampshire, Vermont, and into the state of Maine, you're going to get a pretty good little system out of this. I would say 2 to 4 inches widespread, higher elevations 4 to 6 inches, lower elevations more 1 to 2 inches. So definitely going to be elevation dependent. This is the GFS I will add. I'll show you a couple other models here. Here's the European. You'll notice a lot more elevation dependent. The European's not quite as excited about the cold air being strong enough to give everybody snow. I'll show you again. GFS, European, GFS, European. So you see the differences there, obviously, in elevation. The Canadian, I would say kind of a happy medium between the two. And then I'll show you some of the more mesoscale models. The NAM is a lot more on the GFS side of things with its snow potential. Shows a pretty good swath of snow there into the interior. So I think right now probably the best thing to do is maybe take a happy medium in between. But I do think plenty of people will get notable snow, 2 to 4 inches plus, 4 to 6 inches plus. In the higher terrains, but really in those kind of more middle elevations is where that 2 to 4 inches will be pretty easy to come by, I think. And then the tougher forecast will be in the lower elevations. Now, way down deep in the valleys, probably not your storm, but you get out of those valleys a little bit, and you're gonna see the snowfall totals definitely increase as you get higher up with this first storm system. Another place we need to talk about that I forgot to pull up, which is my fault, is portions of the Midwest here. How much snow are we going to get out here out of this? Well, definitely some lake effect, some, just snow squall weather. And I'll show you the NAM here. I think probably doing a pretty good job. Here's that little band of snow today into northern Iowa and surrounding areas. And then obviously the UP of Michigan up into the northern mitten of Michigan. Going to get some pretty good lake effect, but really pretty good just snow showers in general, I think, across much of the state of Michigan over the next kind of 48 hours or so. As the storm kind of pulls on through there, you'll see a dusting to an inch plus in many places. Detroit probably going to see some flakes fly. Even northern Indiana, northern Ohio could see some of that white stuff falling from the sky. So definitely be aware of that. Be ready for it. Not a huge impact event, but definitely going to be a fun festive one for this time of year. All right. That's the first event. What about the second one? This is the one that I think is probably a little bit more exciting for folks, and rightfully so. We'll go ahead and talk about it. So this is kind of where we left off. This is that northern stream and that southern piece of energy that we just talked about that's going to produce some snow over the next 48 hours or so. That gets out of here, but notice what's behind it. Another potent piece of energy diving down out of kind of the Rockies here and towards the Midwest and towards the Northeast. Now, what's going to happen is we'll get into, let me refresh the page so it wants to load properly. Always fun when it does that. Thursday afternoon here, again, we've got this northern stream energy. This is definitely going to be producing precipitation, probably a nice swath of snow into the northern tier of the country. As that's happening, though, we do have that leftover piece of southern energy down near the southeastern coastline. And I think these two are going to try to phase together and get something going off the northeast coast. And here it comes. Right into this time frame. This is Friday afternoon. Here comes our piece of energy diving south. It's trying to strengthen. It's trying to crank up. It went from kind of positively tilted to now almost a little bit more neutrally tilted, and is now trying to kind of bring and pick up some of that leftover energy from our first storm in the northeast, and really tries to crank up right around this time frame. This is overnight Friday into Saturday, and it's just a wee bit too late for something significant. Or is it? I guess is kind of the next question that you'll ask. Well, let's take a look at the operational model. Let's see what does that vorticity map paint at the surface. Here's the first storm. That's what we just talked about. Here's the next one. Back out into the northern plains, bringing a good swath of snow. This is overnight Wednesday into Thursday. This is Thursday afternoon, flying down, bringing probably a good 1 to 3, 2 to 4 inches of snow for many folks in that part of the country. And then we get to this time frame. This is Friday morning, and you're thinking, all right, well, I'm not really seeing any storm here. There's some low pressure off the southeast coastline, but up here, we've just got some snow showers. Nothing, too exciting. We'll move it ahead a little bit further. This is Friday afternoon, and then we get into Friday evening, and notice this storm off the coast really begins to strengthen, taking advantage of some kind of instability, some natural baroclinic instability along the coastline, as well as some diffluence aloft from this incoming trough. That's going to create rising motion right off the coast of the Northeast. So I think we're definitely going to get a storm in here. Notice the location of it. That's the tough part. That's the key. Where does the storm form? Is it well out to shore here to where it's not going to impact anybody, or can it form a little bit closer to the coast and right up the coast, and then potentially produce some snow into the Northeast? That's the question. Well, here's the GFS, and you'll notice we'll move it ahead, and oh boy, is it so close. Look at this. We've got a nice band of snow. In fact, I think it probably even, clips Nantucket and Cape Cod there, and then becomes a way bigger storm up for our friends in Atlantic Canada. But the good news for snow lovers is this. We're still, let's look at this. We're about 93, 100 hours out. That's 5 days or so. And the other piece of good news is the trends we've seen. And I'll show you that in 1 second. But before we do, let's take a look at the European. Same storm here. Here we go, diving down from the north, producing snow. and then forming that storm off the coast. And again, it is about where the GFS is, but so close. In fact, even again, bringing some snow into Nantucket, Cape Cod, also probably some snow showers into maybe northern New Jersey, Philadelphia. Even looks like maybe a couple, snow showers try to linger into overnight Friday into Saturday. Also brings plenty of energy down into our friends in the Alps, brings pretty good northwest flow snow, and then pulls this up into Canada. So let's talk about the trends a little bit. This is this is the right map. Beautiful. So let me back this up a little bit. This is the GFS vorticity map from what I showed you earlier over time. So this is the run from a couple days ago, then a day and a half ago, then a day ago, then half a day ago, and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and look at the trends in the operational models here. So this is a couple days ago. We'll move this ahead. Okay, here's another movement ahead, another kind of newest run, newer run, and then that's kind of where we're at. So if I kind of go through this and breeze it really quickly, what kind of trend do you notice? Well, it's not a huge trend, but a slight trend we're noticing is this trough is digging a little deeper and backing up just a little bit. And that's what you want to get this storm closer to the coast. You want this trough to, one, dig deeper, and two, be a little less progressive, meaning it's a little bit slower. That gives it time to crank up along the coast and potentially produce a more potent storm system. Now, what does this look like in terms of our storm along the coast? Well, this is the exact same method. Let's back it up a couple runs and move it ahead in a time. So this is a run from, let's see, when was this run? This was overnight yesterday. So this was Sunday night into Monday's run. This was yesterday morning's run, yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening, overnight last night, and this morning. So what do you notice? Well, the storm's backing up. It's moving a little bit slower. It's becoming less progressive, and that's what you want to see, folks. And again, this is 100 miles, 200 miles from a pretty good snowstorm into coastal New England, and it's one of those rare setups where I'd rather be in Boston than the interior portions of the Northeast. I'd rather be in Cape Cod than upstate New York. I'd rather be in Long Island even than maybe Harrisburg or State College. So it's definitely kind of throwing you a bone to you folks on the I-95 corridor. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get a big storm out of it, but what I am saying is there's the chance somebody gets a pretty good snow event. And it's going to really be a boom or bust thing. It's either going to be you're at the beach looking out into the ocean and seeing a ton of snowfall over the sharks or whatever marine life y'all have up there, or you're going to be getting some pretty good snow where you're at. And that's kind of the fine line we're working here. So the chances of at least an inch of snow falling from the European ensembles. Here's the first storm. We kind of talked about that, feeling pretty confident about that one. Here comes the second one, a good swath of snow likely to follow through into the northern plains of the United States, getting into the Midwest. And then the chances here into the Northeast are shown below. Now, you will notice pretty good chances for snow, I think, into Appalachia, West Virginia, down into the mountains of North Carolina, probably some pretty good festive flakes this weekend. But notice this kind of area right into here of higher end snowfall potential, or just off the coast of New England. Now, even you places here towards Boston, Cape Cod, you're getting in that 40% chance or so, but you go just offshore a little bit, and then you're cracking that 50% chance of at least an inch of snow falling. And that's just the European. What about the GFS? Well, let me back it up a little bit. Here comes a storm out of the northern Rockies, gets into the northeastern United States, and exact same story. It's this little swath right here we're watching for the potential of that storm to back up a little bit more and produce some more snow. So the places right now that, you're not seeing much on your radar app, it might not have a snowflake or whatever, but I think Boston and kind of surrounding areas, you need to watch this one. It would not take many trends for this to become a good storm for you. And who knows, if the trend's even better, maybe Connecticut, Rhode Island, can't even rule out Long Island, maybe get something out of this. But, the further inland and the further kind of west you get, the lower the chances are of your snow. But I will mention, also lake effect will be a pretty big thing out of this. So notice some of these higher end numbers showing up into the interior Northeast. That will be some lake effect that occurs, but it's this area right in here that I'm really watching for a potential surprise, if you will. Now, that's not the only surprise I'm watching for. Watch this. We'll go ahead a little bit more at a time. Check this out. This is around next Sunday. We've got a little signal for some snow down here into the Carolinas and Virginia. And Virginia's, I guess. My brain was like, there's not two Virginias. Yeah, there definitely are. There's a normal Virginia and a West Virginia. But obviously not a big number. You're seeing 10%. You're thinking, all right, well, why should I care? Well, what this reminds me of a little bit, actually, is our snow event from earlier this month in the Southeast, December 2nd and 3rd, when we had that little clipper. Actually, kind of a similar setup showing up on the GFS here. So we'll move this ahead in a time. This is Saturday, or really overnight Friday into Saturday. Here's our big coastal storm potential we just talked about. But look what's behind it. Another little kind of shortwave piece of energy rotating around this big pocket of cold air. Almost an identical look to, again, earlier this month when we had that little clipper that brought some pretty good snow to a lot of folks. It dives southward, and I'll tell you, that's a pretty potent looking clipper. Moves even further south, gets into the Virginias and the Carolinas, and then even another little piece of energy dives southward around the Sunday time frame. Now, I'm not saying we're going to get, again, a big storm out of this, but it's something I'm watching for the potential of some surprise flakes for somebody. And I think that's really the best way to kind of talk about the pattern ahead through the next week is there's a lot of energy flying around. And one of these, I think, is bound to surprise somebody. Now, that could be, this clipper in the mid-Atlantic or in Southeast this weekend. That could be the coastal storm. That could be both. Who knows? But somebody's going to definitely get, more snow than maybe the map shows right now. So let's talk about this clipper a little bit. Here it is. This is Friday afternoon. Again, a pretty potent looking clipper diving southward here out of the northern plains, getting into the Midwest, bringing some snow, and then trying to work into the Ohio Valley and the Southeast. And you're thinking, you just talked about snow. Where is it? Well, it's pretty minuscule to see here, but this is Sunday morning on the latest GFS, and you will notice a little bit of blue showing up here into the foothills and the mountains of North Carolina, Virginia, and even getting close to South Carolina. Now, I know this does not look big, and again, like I said, I don't think it's going to be big, but this is about how the clipper earlier this month showed up at this range. In fact, we didn't even really have this much this far out. So it's just something we're watching. Don't get your hopes up, but if you want a Christmas miracle in the Carolinas, this is probably your best shot. That or the mountains getting that northwest flow from the first storm system is also probably going to be a pretty high likelihood, we'll say. So that's kind of what we're watching there. What about, temperatures? What's ahead in this department? Well, it's going to be pretty warm today, so get out there, enjoy it, go on a hike or something, because by the time we get to tomorrow afternoon, here comes the cold out of Canada. Thursday afternoon, we get one little cool down, but it's really this weekend after that second storm system that the hammer really drops. And check out highs. We'll get into this Saturday afternoon. We're talking 20, 30 degrees below average into the Northeast, about 10 to 20 degrees below average into the Mid-Atlantic. So definitely going to be below average in the temperature department here. So just for an example, if your high in Charlotte is, let's say, 55 this time of year, drop 15 degrees from that, you're going to have a high closer to 40, 45 by this weekend for that last minute Christmas shopping that you may be doing. Now, the good news for anybody who is a fan of maybe a warmer, more mild Christmas, it does look to warm up after that. This is Christmas. Let me back it up. This is Christmas Eve afternoon. Still hanging on to cool temperatures along the eastern seaboard, really the apps eastbound, but warming up big time out west into the plains. And then by the time we get into that period between Christmas and New Year's, it looks like an all-out big time warm up for just about everyone in the country. And we'll have to watch that because that could bring maybe the chance of a little bit of some severe weather after the Christmas time frame. So definitely watching out for that. Final thing I'll talk about is the Christmas forecast itself. This is Christmas Eve morning. Still dealing with high pressure in the east. That's going to keep things cold. But what's going to happen is some moisture is going to begin to kind of return on the return flow side of this high pressure. And that could definitely produce some showers and maybe even a couple storms into the southern plains, but also enough of it might return back into the cold air that maybe we get some sort of wintry precipitation here during Christmas Eve into the northeast, and then onto Christmas Day itself. You'll notice, actually, when is this model run? This is the 0 Z. Let's move this. Well, actually, no, I need to use the 0 Z. Sorry, I'm kind of derailing a little bit here, but let's back this up to where we were again. Here we go. Yeah, so you notice precipitation kind of in and around on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. As we get closer, we'll know a little bit more, but just know it does look a little unsettled for that time frame. I'm not seeing any major storm systems at this point in the east. Now, maybe out west into the Rockies, you'll notice here's a pretty big one in that time frame. But not seeing any major travel disruptions at this point for Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. But the days right after Christmas, here comes a pretty big storm system that could produce some severe weather that the models have kind of been hinting at just a bit. Alrighty, folks, that's all I got for you. Again, if you like the video, go ahead, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment. Let me know what you want to see for this Christmas. Alrighty, folks, have a great one. Stay safe out there. I'll see you all next time.